The moment the elevator doors shut, Ethan Lewis felt his heartbeat quicken, as if the entire world had just snapped into a silent, tense pause. He stood inside the metallic cube, clutching the small hand of his 7-year-old son, Noah, while trying not to show fear. The lights flickered once, dimmed, and then died completely. In that split second, the only sound in the world seemed to be Noah's trembling breath, until a voice from the far corner spoke softly in the darkness. It was the voice of the CEO, the billionaire rumored to be the coldest man in the city, the type of person who fired thousands in a single speech without lowering his tone. Suddenly, Ethan realized that this wasn't just any elevator malfunction. What would happen inside this frozen space would change both of their lives forever, exposing a secret worth more than $3 billion. And it would begin with a child asking the one question no adult dared to. If you believe in kindness, humanity, and second chances, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to support stories that remind the world how powerful compassion can be. It really helps the channel. The darkness inside the elevator wasn't just physical. It seemed to seep into the air, cold and unsettling. Ethan whispered to Noah not to worry, that everything was going to be fine, though he wasn't entirely sure himself. They had taken the elevator from the 38th floor of the SkyTech Global headquarters, the building where Ethan worked as a janitor. He had just finished his late-night shift and planned to take Noah home to warm soup and leftover pasta from yesterday. His life was humble, stretched thin between low wages and medical bills from his late wife's cancer treatments. He wished he could do more for Noah, offer him a better childhood, but every paycheck felt like a losing battle he faced alone. The CEO, Mr. Adrian Caldwell, stood somewhere in the darkness, quiet and still, like a statue carved out of arrogance, even without seeing him. Ethan could feel the man's presence, sharp, intimidating, cold like winter steel. It was strange to be trapped with someone so powerful, someone whose decisions shaped entire markets and ruined smaller companies overnight. Ethan wondered if Caldwell even knew who he was, or if all lower-level employees looked the same to him. The elevator smelled faintly of expensive cologne mixed with metal and dust, and Noah tugged at his father's sleeve, asking if anyone would find them. Ethan didn't answer right away, partly because he didn't know, and partly because he felt the CEO listening. Minutes passed, but they felt like hours. The emergency light flickered on, casting a dim reddish glow over the cramped space. Ethan finally got a look at the CEO's face. Adrian Caldwell looked exhausted, older than the pictures in magazines or headlines. The harshness in his expression seemed less like cruelty and more like someone who hadn't smiled in years. Still, he kept to himself, staring at the elevator screen that no longer showed numbers. Noah, innocent and curious, peered up at Adrian with wide eyes. In that moment, something unexpected happened. Noah spoke to him with childlike sincerity, asking if he was scared too. The question seemed to catch Adrian off guard, as if no one had ever dared to ask him such a human thing. Ethan wanted to hush his son, afraid that the CEO might be annoyed, but to his surprise, Adrian's expression softened for a fleeting second. He knelt down slowly, his expensive suit creasing, and for the first time, the light revealed a man who looked painfully lonely. He asked Noah whether he liked elevators, and Noah answered honestly that he liked them when they moved, not when they trapped people. Adrian almost smiled, but something held him back, as if his face had forgotten how to. They sat together in the faint glow, three strangers sharing the same fearful silence. What none of them expected was that the elevator would remain stuck for hours. The phone line was dead, and the building's maintenance team was working on a power malfunction that left communication unstable. As time passed, Ethan grew uncomfortable. Not because they were stuck, but because this was the first time in years someone actually talked to Noah without seeing him as a problem, a burden, or a responsibility someone else should handle. Adrian listened when Noah spoke. He asked what Noah liked, what he wanted to be when he grew up. Noah said he wanted to be an inventor, someone who made things that helped people. Adrian stared at him, and oddly, his eyes shimmered with something fragile. When Noah mentioned that his mom had been sick and passed away, the CEO's breathing changed. Ethan noticed his jaw tighten, a flash of grief shooting across his expression like lightning. Then, Adrian did something no one expected from a billionaire known for his ruthless corporate decisions. He removed his hefty diamond watch, an accessory worth more than Ethan's entire bank account, and let Noah hold it. He told the child it reminded him of time, and how no matter how rich a person was, time couldn't be bought back. Ethan watched the CEO as if seeing a stranger trapped inside the body of a public villain. The rumors suddenly felt shallow compared to the vulnerable figure in front of him. Adrian finally spoke about his own son, whom he had lost to a rare genetic disease years ago. His marriage collapsed, love faded, and he buried himself in work, building a billion-dollar fortress around his heart. He said people called him heartless because they couldn't see that he had no heart left to give. It was the first time Ethan saw him as more than a cold businessman. The elevator, quiet and dim, felt almost like a confessional booth suspended in time. Adrian admitted he built SkyTech into a $3 billion empire, not out of ambition, but out of guilt, a desperate attempt to fill a void that nothing ever could. Ethan, with grief of his own, felt a strange connection to him, like two broken men who had lost the essence of what mattered most. Noah leaned against Adrian, quietly, innocently, without judgment. And that simple gesture shook Adrian more than any business deal ever had. Hours later, the maintenance team finally fixed the power, and the elevator jerked violently before lights fully came on. When the doors slid open, employees stood waiting along with security teams. Adrian stepped out slowly, but before leaving, he turned to Ethan and told him not to leave the building just yet. Ethan stood frozen, confused and anxious. He wondered if something he said in the elevator had offended the CEO in some way. He feared losing his job, especially after opening up emotionally. His mind raced with worries: rent, bills, Noah's school fee, groceries. Everything felt fragile. Ethan waited nervously in the lobby, clutching Noah close. Moments later, Adrian walked back in, carrying a thick envelope. He handed it to Ethan without explanation. Inside were documents, an offer letter, and a salary number that took Ethan's breath away. Adrian had created a new department, one dedicated to innovations that helped ordinary families, children in medical need, and struggling communities. He wanted Ethan to lead a program inspired by Noah's dream of being an inventor who helped people. The job included full health insurance, a high salary, childcare support, and access to education programs for Noah. Ethan stared, overwhelmed. He didn't understand why a billionaire would do this for a janitor. Adrian simply answered that sometimes, the people closest to hardship are the ones who know how to create solutions for it. And sometimes, the purest inspiration comes from a child who sees the world not as it is, but as it should be. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps keep emotional, real-life stories alive on this channel. Months passed, and Ethan grew into his new role with surprising speed. Noah visited the office often, charming employees, and even inspiring new product ideas. Adrian transformed too. He began visiting schools, donating to hospitals, and building programs for children with life-threatening illnesses. People wondered why the coldest man in business suddenly changed. They didn't know that, in the stillness of a broken elevator, trapped between floors and fate, he found something money could never buy: a second chance at being human. Special request: before the ending scene below, comment what you believe matters more in life, success or compassion. Share your answer. Years later, as Ethan watched Noah receive awards for joining one of the biggest innovation programs in the country, he glanced at Adrian standing quietly in the crowd. They exchanged a look, not of employer and employee, not of billionaire and janitor, but of two fathers who had lived through loss and found hope again. Adrian wiped a tear discreetly. Ethan smiled gratefully. Noah looked at both of them, unaware of how deeply he had changed their lives. And somewhere inside that silent understanding, a secret worth $3 billion stood unspoken, living not in money, but in hearts healed through kindness.